Hi folks, this is Tony from Whalebones, and this is segment 2 of our trip to Columbia, South America. So where we left off is in the last segment, we got together in Sacramento, California, and then decided we were going to get a sailboat. So we were going to fly down to Port St. Lucie or to Miami. So Leo went, I think, to New York, and I went to New Jersey, or vice versa. I can't remember right now. And when we got there, Gary came to pick us up at the airport and bring us to Port St. Lucie with his vehicle. Gary was I don't know how to put this. He was a car salesman. He was kind of a sleazy car salesman, I guess I'd say. And but that's beside the point. I mean, what he did is he bought. We didn't know this when we bought the boat, but what happened is that he bought the boat. It was into a hurricane. It went through a hurricane and got really badly damaged. And what he did is he fixed it up. He went and patched it up, and he put, filled in the holes that were ripped in it and everything. And he made it look pretty nice. He really did a good job on it in a way, in a sense. But what we didn't know is that there was so much damage to the ship that we got out on the big ocean, man, I'll tell you, it was not seaworthy very well. It was really it was really in bad shape. But we couldn't see that. And we spent so much money buying the boat that we couldn't afford to have somebody come and inspect it to see that it was correct in every way. And we should have. It probably would have cost us a fortune to do that, maybe $500-600. But we just didn't have the money. So we just thought, well, we'll just go on Gary's, say so that the ship is in good shape. He did. The agreement that we had with him is we didn't ever go sailing in our life. We even in a little bitty tiny boat, we never had any experience. So Gary promised that if we bought the boat, he would take us out on the in the harbor of Port St. Lucie, and he had a little boat that it was little sailboat, was called Blondie. We named it Blondie. It was just a white boat, or kind of yellow boat, really, and it was about 12 foot long, and it had a pretty good size sail on it, and Gary would follow us. We had a dinghy that we bought from him too, and he would follow us around on the dinghy. He had a motor for it, and so he was like giving us instructions on the fly, so to speak, while we sailed it. But it was really hard to understand. It was extremely difficult for us. But eventually we got the hang of it. Eventually Leo and I were going out there by ourselves and sailing the sea, and it was fun. It was usually hot down there, really hot, and we'd come in and just jump in the water and go swimming and cool off. So we had a blast doing that. So anyway, we went down to Florida. Gary picked us up, took us to Port St. Lucie. So while we were down there, we asked Gary if he would allow us to stay on the boat in dry dock. And, he said, yeah, but, he didn't think that the people that owned the marina would allow that. He said that they'd probably, insurance-wise or something, they'd probably really they wouldn't be happy about that if they saw it. So he told us to be very careful not to let them think that we're living on the boat. So not to put lights on at night and not to appear that we're living on it. And so it was kind of a precarious situation for us. But anyway, whatever. So while we were doing the learning how to sail in the Blondie and sitting on the boat, sleeping on the boat this went on for a couple months, really. And so, but we didn't have a hotel. We're not paying for a hotel. We're living for free on the boat. And but the thing we did during the day we had a mountain, a real, literal mountain of stuff to buy. We had to buy so much stuff. We had to buy, think of it, think of going out and planning to be out in this boat for a freaking year, an entire year. And if you can imagine, that's not an easy task. I mean, you had to think of it like, what are we going to have for meat? What are we having for breakfast? What are we having for lunch? What are we having for dinner? We had to think of all those things, and snacks. And well, we got like about 16 cases of beer. We put the 16 cases of beer in the hold of the boat. In the back hold, there was like a trap door on the deck, and you go down in this hold, and we put all the beer down there. We didn't know it at the time, but with the wet weather we went through and the slamming around, every single case ripped open, and all the cans ripped open, and there was that whole entire hold was full of beer, but it was rotted, smelly beer. I'll tell you, I had to clean it up, man. I went down there for days and days, bailing out that thing with a bucket and trying to get all that beer out of there. It was a hell of a mess, and it smelled so bad. You can't imagine. It really rotted. I didn't know beer would rot, but it's got alcohol, and you wouldn't think it would do that. So anyway, we shopping for provisions, and then it was a real active community. There was a lot of sailors there, and so we start meeting these people. Some of them were Gary's old friends because he'd been going there for years. And, he'd put in there and then sail to the Bahamas and then come back. And the sailing that Gary did, he used the motor. He didn't use the sails. He used the motor. It was like a Perkins diesel. And he just had a motorboat down there. And the waves in the Bahamas are they're like away from the ocean somewhat. There's islands that protect you, from the Atlantic. The Atlantic is on one side, and the Mediterranean is on the other side. Or I mean, not the Mediterranean, the Caribbean is on the other side. So there's never any kind of big ass waves down there. I mean, it's just little ripples, and it does sometimes with a real strong winds. It does sometimes get some good sized waves, but not anything that shakes the boat or that's hard to sail or anything. It makes it really, so that's the kind of sailing Gary did. And he had a netting all the way around the boat for his cat. He had this cat, and that's why he named it Bimini Dancer. Anyway, it had the boat was a really cool boat. It had a lot of features to it, and it had davits on the back that held Blondie. Davits, there's they're like aluminum things that are real strong, and you have like a couple ropes down to hold the boat up. And so we hauled Blondie all the way down to Anagua, and that's where we lost it because it got a big hole punched in the side from the boat banging on when we went through really, really bad weather. The boat was banging and slamming against the ship, and it just got all holes in it. We were dragging it for days, almost like that, where it was like the only way it would stay afloat is if we were moving, and if you stopped, the thing would start to sink. And if it filled up with water, we were screwed, because we're really in trouble because we're hauling a lot of weight, and the boat wouldn't go very fast. So we had to just ditch it when we got down to Anagua. Hi, this is Tony from Whalebones again. And we're always talking about Gary taking us out in the 56-foot sailboat to teach us some stuff. And the two lessons that he wanted that were really important to him is number one, if there was a sandbar somewhere, and there's a lot of sandbars, and they shift because it's kind of like the desert. The tide's moving around, and they're very, very irregular, and so you never know when you're going to run into a sandbar. And if you do, Gary wanted to show us what would that happen if you ran into one and how to get off of it. So the first cruise out of the harbor at Port St. Lucie with Gary, he was going to take us down to get some fuel so we had to go about 3 or 4 bridges down, but just out of Port St. Lucie. And I don't know if he did this on purpose, but we're going along. I started out, everything was great. Had a perfect day. It was really a nice day. And the first thing we hit, we just get right out at the mouth of the entrance into the harbor there, and he runs smack into a sandbar, and the boat just, it hits the sandbar and it rocks up like this, and what he did is he started rocking the boat with forward and reverse, just over and over and over again, harder and harder and harder, really giving it the goose. And it broke free. Finally, it broke free. He got through it. But that was, to him, a very, very important lesson. And the next thing that he taught us that was extremely important was the radio rules, the shortwave radio rules. When you came to a bridge, and there were a lot of bridges down there, a lot of places where you had to call the harbor master, and you'd have to identify yourself. Hello, this is Tony on Whalebones, or on Bimini Dancer, and we would like permission to get onto your bridge or whatever it was, and then they would say, well, wait a minute, or depending on traffic, so they'd say give you a few, or just wait, or whatever, or we can do it now. And so the bridge would raise up, and our mast was, I think it was 54, 56 feet tall. So it had to raise up way up, man. And so that was the next lesson that he taught us about. It's calling harbor patrol, or the harbor master. The other thing, Gary took us down into the map room, down on lower deck in the ship, and he had a drawer, a big fat drawer. It was really full of, like this thick of maps. And what he wanted to impress upon us, we had GPS, but what he wanted to impress upon us is the fact that you can tell where you're at if you have a map and have some visual, somewhere where you can see where you're at. Otherwise, if you're out there and GPS, say you got hit by lightning and GPS went out, you're lost. You're never going to find your way anywhere. The sea is enormous. I mean, it's big. It's huge. It's so big, and so he wanted to teach us how to do the maps. And that's pretty tough, for somebody that doesn't know how to do this stuff. So we never really did get comfortable with that. But it came to be the fact, though, we were going around Cuba in a terrible lightning storm, and the lightning was coming down. You can't even believe the lightning. It was like big bolts, and they came down right next to the boat, and they kind of corkscrewed down in the water, down. You could see way down. It was kind of pink, and all the way to the bottom. And it's like, it scared the living hell out of us. I mean, those lightning bolts, if that would hit our GPS, that's the end of our trip right there, because I don't think we'd ever figure it out. But it was a horror. The whole light over Cuba, the whole island of Cuba, that was like lit up. It looked like it was a bonfire going. It was just really lit up with all this lightning, and it was really a scary thing that we went through there. So anyway, it finally came to pass when we're going to go out on our first sail overnight by ourselves. Not with Gary. Gary took us before, but now we're going to go out there by ourselves. And we were really kind of apprehensive. That's really very apprehensive, And so the next morning, we set out in the boat. And everything was going great. We had to go down a couple of bridges and had to talk to the harbor masters and get the bridges raised and all that. And we had to go down to fuel up at this fuel depot with diesel fuel. So we did that, and everything was going great. It was like a real, on the A1A is the intercoastal waterway that runs between Miami and the ocean. It's like another waterway that just parallels the ocean, right? And so anyway, we fueled up, and then we came back, went back through the bridges, what we had to do, and then we let's see. Trying to think of what happened then. Let's see. Oh, okay. We got to a place where we thought was nice. It wasn't the weather was nice. It wasn't real windy. There were very few waves. So we picked the spot. We looked at our GPS or their depth locator and all that, and it seemed like a nice spot. It looked like a sandy bottom. So we anchored there, and our anchor chain our anchor was not a rope, it was a chain, and had a big anchor on it, big heavy anchor on it. So we just dropped it down until it hit the bottom, and then we just anchored there. That was great. We were just sitting there. So we had dinner, and we had a great dinner and a great sunset. And we were really feeling really proud of ourselves because, man, we finally did it, right? We're out there, we know what we're doing, right? Oh, yeah. Well, so here comes this next morning. We went to sleep. Wake up the next morning. We're down below deck having breakfast in the galley. And just beyond the galley, there's a stairway that goes to the upper deck. There's a stairway, and you could see the cover was open, so you could see from the kitchen or from the galley up through that opening, right? And we're sitting there enjoying our breakfast. Suddenly, I look up, and there's this goddamn big ass boat, and it's like going like this on our deck, on our stern. And there was wood flying everywhere. There was rotted wood all over the deck. It was smashing down on us. It was crazy. Well, what happened was, in the nighttime, I don't know, there must have been another guy that was anchored there. And what happened is, if I could describe this with my hands. So let's say we're like this. My boat's here, his boat's here. And so what happened is, the wind... Well, anyway... Then it came time. Gary had to take us out on the boat, and he had to teach us how to sail in the big boat. Now, it's a totally different thing when you're in Blondie. It's a 12-foot boat, right? And now you've got a 56-foot long boat that's like 12 feet wide, or 8 feet wide. I'd say 8 feet, probably not 12. And the beam. And it has a draft, a really deep draft. It's probably 12-foot draft. It's or 10-foot, man, I don't know. It was really, the bottom of the boat was way down in the water. And we had it so loaded when we went out there that it was like really dangerous, I guess, in a way. Anyway, so Gary was going to show us some things. We got the boat put in the water, and I want to show you something. What they use to put the boat in the water is called a dolly. It's a large boat dolly. You can see this. It's like, here's the boat, and this is the dolly, and it's got a big sling that comes down, and it's got concrete abutments like here and here, and at the bottom is the water. And so that the thing has wheels on it here. I'm looking at the backside. It's got wheels on it, and it rolls out on this. And when it gets to the end of this this jetty, then there's this pulley up on top that lowers the boat down into the water, and that's how they load the boat. So now I'll tell you something. They told us there's a fabric material that's packed. It's a packing, they call it a packing. So inside of the tube that holds the shaft, the propeller shaft, propeller shaft's hooked to the motor, right? So that when it turns, it's got this packing in it. And what happens, you have to put it in the water and let it soak for a pretty long time, for probably 12 hours. And what it does, it seals the water from coming in through that tube. And so you have to sit there and let it leak a little bit. So Leo and I were sleeping on the boat, and we didn't have anywhere else to stay, so we're sleeping on the boat. And all night long while we're sleeping, you hear water gurgling. I mean, we were thinking, man, that thing's going to sink and we're going to be screwed. Really screwed. I mean, you wake up with, drowned, I mean, rats. You're like drowned rats. But anyway, I could hear the water all night long. But then morning came, and the guy that was doing this, the harbor master, he checked it. He was looking at it and checked it, and he could see that, hey, the thing soaked up enough that it wasn't leaking real bad, just dripping a little bit. And if we just sat there a couple more days, then it would, going to be totally sealed and it wouldn't be leaking anymore. And that's what he did. So we're on the boat when this is all occurring, and it was quite a sight to see this thing, this big, massive dolly come out there on those jetties and haul the boat. And the boat weighed 11 tons. That's how much it weighed, and it was a big, big ass boat. Okay, so while this was all happening, we're meeting the sailors and meeting all the people there and everything. And so Leo and I asked our friends at home to send us our stuff. We each had a lot of possessions. We needed stuff for the boat. So the guy that I had was a carpenter and so on, and a house builder, and he built me about like a 4x4 a 4 foot tall 6x6 box full of everything I own. We threw in there, and he sent it to me, and it took a couple weeks to get there, or waiting. We couldn't go anywhere until we got our stuff, right? So we're waiting, and we're I'm telling you, we had so much to do. We had things to buy. We had to get like a Jarman. Jerry had a Jarman, but on the boat, but it was a very old one. It was not very good. So we went and bought the very top of the line Jarman GPS, and it cost us a ton of money. It was a good one though. It had chips that you put in it, and for different areas you had to change the chips when you're going, because you'd go from area to area to area. You had to change chips, but you had to buy all those chips. They were like $300 a piece, whatever. And so we were well prepared with that way. But anyway, so shifted. So his boat and ours it wasn't anchored very well. It was, it was straight down. His anchor was probably 200 feet away, and so he had a different angle of attack than us. So he was anchored pretty good. So the wind shifted. So here's what happens. He's like over here. So he starts coming. The wind is shifting. He's going like this, and we're still sitting there. And then his anchor, like let's see. How could I say this? Like, okay. All right. This is our boat. Wait, I guess I go this way. This is the ground. This is our anchor. This is the other guy's anchor. And what had happened, the wind shifted, he pulled, and then his anchor hooked our anchor and pulled the anchor up enough that we started drifting too. He wasn't drifting, but we were, but he was pulling him closer and closer to us. And so what happened in this instance, we were frantic. We ran up the stairs, and we're trying to shove bumpers, those rubberized, air-filled bumpers that you put out to keep your boat from banging into the dock, and that we stuffing them between his boat and our. And I'm telling you, this boat, you put your hand out, you couldn't move them away. It's like tons. It's like our boat is 11 tons, and his boat was probably 20 tons, and it was crashing down. It was smashing. And the funny thing about it is that it finally got to the point where we didn't know what to do. We were stuck. We couldn't get away from him. He's smashing into us. So we finally called the Harbor Patrol on the radio and asked for some help. And they immediately dispatched a Coast Guard cutter to come and help us. And so what we did in the end is the Coast Guard cutter said, look, we can't untangle it because of the wind and everything, and he's right on you. So all we could do is cut. He had to cut this rope, so he lost a couple 250 feet or 300 feet of rope, and his anchor, which is expensive, and his entire bowsprit. That's the very nose of the boat. There's a bowsprit that goes up over the water. You can walk out on it and fish if you want to. And his was teak, which is really a strong, good wood, right? But this teak wood was all over our deck. It was rotted. It was really rotted, and it was like falling apart, like it crumbled. And when it hit our boat, it just slammed down on the back of our boat, and it just absolutely shattered the whole entire bowsprit. So what could we do, man? We owed this guy for his anchor, for his rope, for his bowsprit. But see, I think this guy knew what was going on. He did this on purpose. So he put his anchor out there, swung around. Maybe he didn't realize it, but it got me the feeling like he was trying to replace his bowsprit, because when it didn't do any damage to our boat at all. I mean, even though this boat was banging into us on the top, didn't do us any damage. But his bowsprit was all over there was rotten wood everywhere. It was just like we had to clean the whole thing up. So that was extremely scary experience. It was like our lives were so much in danger, you have no idea. If our hand would have got between his boat and ours, it would have ripped your arm right off. It was terrifying. I've never been so terrified. It was so impossible. You can't even imagine it. So for now, I'm going to just stop this again, and then we'll continue with the next segment. I guess that would be episode 3. So this is Tony from Whalebones out, and thanks, my friends, for watching. And don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like and share. Do us a favor. We'll help our channel. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Tony out.